Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Think Clinical Podcast. My name is Hamza. It's another beautiful week. I'm always excited to be here to share more information, more insight, share my opinion on things that would help you navigate this complex terrain of healthcare entrepreneurship. So glad to be here. Welcome to another very exciting episode. So in this episode, we are going to be looking at how you can scale responsibly. And I choose those words carefully. Everybody can scale. I'm not interested in you scaling fast. I'm not interested in you scaling beyond whatever your goal has been from the beginning. It's important that you scale, because it's exciting when you are scaling. It's exciting because it means that your solution is gaining traction. Your solution is gaining acceptance. Your solution is gaining market acceptance. So it's important that you scale. But in doing so, today I want to talk about how you can scale responsibly. How do you scale without compromising quality? How do you scale without losing the trust of your patients? Because healthcare is about patient outcomes. It's a life or death situation. So you need to be very careful as a healthcare entrepreneur when you are scaling. Now, unlike retail, like scaling a retail space, healthcare is inherently very, very complex. So you're not going to just be dealing with just products and services. You are going to be dealing with people's lives, and the outcomes you give them based on what they can rely on from your information is what they will need to be able to determine whether or not they're in the best shape. So if you build a product that produces false information to patients and leads to a lot of complications, no matter how much money you make, no matter how quickly you scale, you are going to have issues. So these are some of the things that I want us to look at today. Now, what are some of the key principles of scaling responsibly? Now, the first thing that you need to know is that operational excellence is important. Now, what does operational excellence even mean? You need to look at how you can build your processes and your systems before the growth comes in. Because if you don't have the right products and the right processes and systems in place, the growth would actually lead to your downfall, because you will not be ready. And that is not the beginning of responsibility or scaling responsibly. So look at your workflows. How efficient are your workflows? How scalable are those workflows that you've developed right now? Can your supply chain support 10 times your demand right now? Just ask yourself that. Look at your tech infrastructure. Are they robust enough to be able to support you as you grow? So this is more like building your foundation, making sure that all the different things that you have in place, you are sure that when the company is hit with the growth, it has the foundation to be able to withstand and consistently offer the same quality, as I said in the beginning, and the same outcomes that it needs to offer to patients. So the first one is operational efficiency. And these are some of the key principles that you need to be looking at when you want to scale responsibly. Secondly, you need to look at how aligned your team is. Now, if your team is not very well aligned, it's going to be a challenge, because one, as a company, you have a mission. You have projected a mission into the future that you are going to hold yourself to. How aligned are your people to that mission? Is everybody aware, first of all, of the mission, and are they aligned with that mission that you set? Now, if they're aligned, you're going to put people in different leadership positions. Are these people equipped to lead the people or their teams towards that mission? Are they equipped enough? This is where leadership development comes in. This is where training comes in. This is where team engagement comes in. This is where building the right culture would come in when you have your team aligned. Thirdly, Are you offering patient-centric care? Are you intentionally providing patient-centric care? Because you have to be in a position where from the beginning of your company, from the beginning of your service delivery, you have been able to clearly establish that you are monitoring and improving patient satisfaction. People are giving you feedback and you're actually delivering like you promised you would. Are you actually doing that? Are you incorporating patient feedbacks into your scaling strategy? Don't just take the information from them. Incorporate that information, that feedback they're giving you into. Are you doing that? These are the key principles that you need to look at. If you're operationally you're not efficient, if you don't have the right processes in place, and the processes should be scalable. If you don't have those in place, if you don't have your team well aligned, and if you don't have the background of patient-centric care, you are already going to be moving out of any form of responsible scaling, if I should put it that way. Now, how do you, and this doesn't come without challenges. Scaling has its own challenges, and I'll talk through a couple of them soon, but how would you overcome them? I like to look at a problem, but I like to also come to the problem with a solution. Now, how do you maintain quality across all geographies? Because that's a big challenge. If you start scaling very quickly and you start expanding to regions, how are you going to maintain the same quality across these regions? It's like a franchise, like a food franchise, where they produce the same taste of food in because they produce the source from the same. How are you going to create your processes such that anywhere people experience the services is going to be the same? How do you maintain that level of quality? That's the first challenge that you obviously know you would have. How do you avoid emission drift? Because the moment you start scaling, by default, and a lot of the time, your mindset starts shifting towards revenue instead of whatever your mission was from the beginning of you setting up that company or that dream. How do you avoid that mission drift? Now, how do you also manage growth pains? That's another very important thing, because if as you grow, it's going to be painful. It's going to require a lot of hours from you as a leader, from your team. It's going to require a lot of testing of your processes that you put together in the first place. You have to be ready to pivot. You have to be ready to revise some of those processes if they're not working. It's painful. So how do you manage those growing pains? How do you, those bottlenecks that come out when there are operational breakdowns, how do you do them? The culture of your organization, how do you these culture shifts are going to be unavoidable. How do you hone everything in and keep it going the way it should? If you're able to get these three challenges lined up, and I'm going to tell you how, and listen, those are some of the things that when people start scaling, they don't pay attention to, but those things have the capacity to actually bite you as you grow. Now, if you look at all these things and all these challenges that we have, you do understand that when you have a problem like, let's say, operational efficiency, and I've spoken about Teledoc. When they started, their focus was mainly ensuring that every aspect of their telehealth platform, from scheduling to consultation, could scale without hiccups. So immediately COVID happened, and there was suddenly a shift, or people were motivated to use the platform more. They noticed that they were ready because they had built a process that made it easy for people to consult till they are able to see other people. When we talk about things like team alignment, a great example would be Laura Health. Now, as they scaled their primary care model, which was invested in very, very rigorous training programs for their staff, ensure that everybody was well aligned, from their physicians all the way to their administrative staff, and they were able to provide consistent care at every point. When we look at patient-centric care, what you have to look at take the company like a capsule. Like let's look at a company like Capsule, which is the online pharmacy shop, right? As they grew, they maintained their focus on personalized customer experiences, and that's all they kept investing on. And once they kept going on, Capsule became one of those companies that was recognized as focusing on patient experience, because they took the feedback, they incorporated it into change, they incorporated it into growth, and they just kept going. So these are some of the things that I'm talking about here. Now, once we look at these, we have to look at how some of these what are the takeaways here. What can we take away from this experience? One, as soon as you think about scaling, you have to build. So from the beginning of your company, you have to build scalability into your foundation. You need to, anything you are doing, if you are talking about how you manage your equipment, it has to be, you have to think about scalability. If you're thinking about how to manage your facilities, you have to think about scalability. If you are thinking about how to do purchasing, you have to think about scalability. If you are thinking about patient care, you have to think about scalability. Anything that you are developing from the beginning of your innovation or your company or your product, build scalability into your foundation. The second takeaway is that you have to focus on quality metrics. You have to track these. What are the patient outcomes? What is the feedback you are getting from all these services you are offering to patients? And the third takeaway I'll give you today is that you have to communicate relentlessly, because to keep your team aligned, you mostly have to over communicate. And I always tell people, I'd rather have you over communicate with me than under communicate or not communicate at all. So if you look at the three takeaways that we have, and to be able to grow, to be able to scale responsibly, remember that you always have to build scalability into your foundation. So everything you're doing, you have to think about how you're going to scale with that process or the idea. You have to make sure you focus on your quality metrics, and you also have to make sure you communicate relentlessly with your team to make sure everybody's aligned. So this has been another episode of the Think Clinical podcast. Appreciate you so much. Again, scale responsibly. It's not going to be easy, but it's doable. We will see you on next episode. Again, remember to subscribe, like, and share.